Hello, everyone, and welcome to Design Dash episode 4. In this show, we give 3 creators 1 surprise prompt and only 15 minutes to design a Storytellers Vault-worthy product. That's right, today our episode features Storytellers Vault. Let's dive right in with introductions. My name is Brooke Whitney, my pronouns are she, her, and I am a partner relations rep at DriveThru. I'm also a big fan of Halloween and all things spooky, so I am super excited for today's episode. Here with me today is my fabulous co-host, Danny.
Thanks, Brooke. Hey, everyone. My name is Danny Quatch. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the community manager for Roll20. I'm super stoked to be able to co-host this episode today because Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. But enough about us. Let's hop in and talk about all the amazing people that we have around us. So first up, I want to introduce our amazing guest host, Rachel. Rachel, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Rachel. My pronouns are she, her. You probably recognize me from Storytellers Vault titles like A K-Knight's Guide to Travel, Rose City by Night, and Playing the Black Hand that I was really happy to write with my 2 co-writers. You can also find me a little bit on Miskatonic Repository, where I have Returned to Teutoburg Forest and St. Morma's Home for Wayward Girls. You can also find me pretty much everywhere on the internet as Stolen Fires, from the Burning Bird app to Twitch.
Amazing. So since it's our Halloween episode, everybody has a little Halloween themed icebreaker. So Rachel, picture this. You're a kid, you just got done trick-or-treating and you have a big bag of candy. What candy do you trade away immediately? And then what candy are you for sure keeping for yourself?
So the toffee stuff I'm hiding so my mom doesn't get it. I'm keeping the Butterfinger and the jelly beans. And then I'm trading away the Pixie Sticks and the Tootsie Pops.
I'll take your pixie sticks and Tootsie Puffs. I love those.
Have all of them. Oh, and
You can have my Butterfingers.
I'm keeping the candy corn and probably trading for more.
Oh, candy corn stand. I like it. Amazing. Rachel, thank you so much for being our guest host. We'll definitely talk to you in a bit while our designers are designing. But now we have our 3 amazing designers from the Storytellers Vault. First up, let's talk to Steffie. Steffie, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Steffie. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a freelance writer and developer. I've worked on games for Onyx Path Publishing, who did The World of Darkness, and they currently do Exalted and Scion and lots of other cool stuff. I've worked on a couple of indie games. I can highly recommend Witch, releasing the 2nd edition soon, but if anyone is looking for a Halloween game, Witch is amazing. It's about selling your soul to a demon and then afterwards realizing that that was a big mistake.
Amazing. Steffi, your question is, being scared, obviously we have a whole bunch of fun horror writers with us today, but being scared and dipping into the fear can actually be fun. Do you have a childhood fear or an irrational fear that you've overcome?
I mean, yes and no, in the sense that I have many fears, lots of them irrational and lots of them based on anxiety, and I've overcome exactly none of them. So I just seem to be collecting more as I get older. I'm like, oh yeah, that's terrifying. Sometimes I think I'm over a thing and then I delve into it and then I'm like, no, yeah, no, that's still scary. So no, I didn't get over any of them. I just get increasingly terrified as the time passes.
You're just collecting all the fears, but then
I'm
sooner or
collecting
later
all of
you'll
them.
become the fear, right? Somehow.
Yeah, I plan to have some apotheosis going on where I become the ultimate nightmare.
Amazing. Next up, our next designer is DeAngelo. Please introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is DeAngelo Murillo. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a writer and game designer and professional GM, constantly running Vampire the Masquerade and the Apocalypse stuff on free time and everything like that. And I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Heck yeah, thanks for joining us. Your question is, so Bobbing for Apples is a classic fall festival activity, but let's say we're on a shortage of apples in this world that we're creating. What would you recommend we bob for, or maybe a new fall activity altogether?
I'm just going to lean and go super Mexican, and I'm just going to do green chili salsa and carne asada burritos to like bob for. It might get in your eyes, but it's a risk. So you're going to have to
That's
take
worth
it.
it. I will take all the flavor into all orifices.
Exactly. It burns so good. Yeah.
Awesome. And last but not least, Josh. Josh, please introduce yourself.
Hi there, I'm Josh Heath. Pronouns are he, him. I am the Chief Operations Officer of High Level Games. I am a writer, editor, layout artist, convention organizer, administrator of groups, podcaster, and everything. I pretty much, if there's a thing in the space of RPGs, I've probably done it. Except for art, don't ask me to draw a thing because you will not like what you see. There's a million things I could say, but those are the things that I'm going to spit out and then stop.
Well, don't stop yet, because your question is that jack-o'-lanterns are usually made out of pumpkins and gourds. First, they're opened up and then gutted out, and then we get to carve them to put around as decoration. Do you have a spooky go-to decoration for the fall time that puts you in the mood?
I want to start by saying in England, where my spouse is from, they used to traditionally use rutabagas as their jack-o'-lanterns instead of pumpkins. We often get a rutabaga just to carve that, and rutabagas are actually creepier than pumpkins for a Halloween feel to it. But then we like to have skulls around all the time, all year round. We had them in our front garden for like 3 years running, and our neighbors were like, wait, that's the skull house? That's how they described us. So, we don't put the decorations away.
Y'all heard it here first. This is your chance to start a rutabaga tradition for your jack-o'-lanterns. Thank you so much. All right, Brooke, we've done our introductions. Let's get into the meat of it all.
Yes, Halloween doesn't only have to be in October. The scares can continue year-round. But before we get started, let me just explain the rules. Today we are challenging our 3 Storytellers Vault creators to design a encounter in 15 minutes based on a surprise prompt. You, the viewer, can decide who wins. After the show, you can vote for your favorite encounter on Twitter, so be sure to follow us at Roll20 app and keep an eye out for the poll. We will also gather an internal top secret panel of judges who will review the encounters anonymously and rate them. Those scores combined will grant one winner the title of Storytellers Vault's Design Superstar. Is everyone ready?
As ready as we're going to be.
Yep. Your surprise prompt for the day is chronological cryptids. So we want to see urban legends of the past, present, and future. So Danny will set the timer for 15 minutes, and you can count us down, Danny.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and right. Let's go.
And they are off, and we get to chat with Rachel, which I am very excited about. Rachel, for anyone who may be unfamiliar with the World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness, can you give us an Explain Like I'm 5 breakdown of what it is?
Yeah. World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness, they both approach modern urban fantasy folklore, and they do it from slightly separate angles, but you still get a lot of the same urban monsters. So you still get vampire, you get werewolf, you get changelings. Each line has its own different take on it. Changeling the Dreaming, which is one of my personal favorite games. It's about the journey from childhood to adulthood and being able to retain your childlike wonder in a world that just wants to crush it out of you. Whereas Changeling the Lost is all about overcoming trauma.
Yeah, and there's Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, and essentially Storytellers Vault is a program that allows creators to use content from these incredible games and make your own creations from them. So we will have information about the Storytellers Vault if you're interested in writing for it in the description below. You worked on Chronicles of Darkness Dark Eras Companion, which is a really cool resource. We noticed that unlike other community content programs, Storytellers Vault doesn't have as many adventure paths, but does have a ton of setting and lore information. Is that true in your experience, and why do you think that might be the case?
I think it's probably the case because also thank you for name checking Dark Ares Companion. That was the first job I ever took with Onyx Path, and it's work that I'm really proud of. I wrote half the reconstruction chapter. As far as why there's no encounters, I think because the game is supposed to be a much more of a sandbox style where it probably takes most of its cues from the first game that came out, which was Vampire the Masquerade in 1992, where there is no real linear adventure path. It's more, here is the city, here is the power structure of the city, here's where you can go, here's where you can't go, or if you do go there, don't get caught. and here's all the problems and the secrets and the rivalries, and it's up to you and your coterie as the player characters to decide what you want to do in the city. How do you want, like, what are your goals and how are you going to get them? And there's any number of ways you can do it.
That's very cool. So it's scenario based rather than having problems just popping up everywhere. The players could go wherever. Very interesting. Danny, do you like a sandbox adventure?
I do. And when you were talking about changelings and how sometimes we see monsters as what they are just in a setting, but to be able to hop into a setting where you are the monster and you can actually humanize that and be in that space where you're like, well, I am othered. I feel like a lot of marginalized communities can relate to that, which is really cool. I will say both me and Brooke, again, we kind of try to do our research, but we haven't played a Chronicle of Darkness game. Is there a jumping point that you would recommend for newbies looking into it?
So my recommendation is, first off, don't get too caught up on lore, because especially with the Vampire the Masquerade, there's just lore. And it was all made collaboratively. A writer on one title didn't necessarily read what was on another title. They just wrote what they thought sounded good. And I've gotten into conversations where people are like, well, how do these two things reconcile? Like, they don't. Just pick which one you like the best. So my recommendation is, what's your favorite urban fantasy legend? Do you like vampires or werewolves more? If you like vampires, here's Masquerade, here's Requiem. If you like werewolf, here's Apocalypse, here's Forsaken. I would not recommend starting with Mage. That being said, that is a very complicated game in both iterations.
Very helpful. Very helpful. And Danny, how are we looking on time? Is it about the 5-minute check-in point?
Yeah, we're coming in on 6 minutes in. So if we want to start peeking at our designers and seeing what they have, and just a reminder for those watching at home, their prompt is chronological cryptids, urban legends from the past, present, and future. So let's hop over to Josh's and just take a little sneak peek in there and see what's up.
All right. We have Connecticut Harbor.
Ooh, in the late 1600s. I already love the setting straight off the bat.
I like the Arcanum chapter houses. I'm going to amend my previous statement in that a good jumping in point is Hunter, because that is a really good perspective. You play someone who's in the world of darkness. All of these people are doing their best to hide from you. And when you play a hunter, you get to play the experience of discovery, of finding out the lore in and out of character. And Arcanum is a lot of fun because they're almost like the catch and release hunters. They're like, yeah, we're gonna find the vampire and then ask them what it's like to be a vampire, and then we're gonna leave and write it down.
Very interesting. I notice when we do Design Dash with different programs, like with Pathfinder, we immediately see mechanics and skill checks. It's really interesting that for this, it's story based. And I think that's similar to what we saw with Miskatonic Repository as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. All right, let's hop right over to DeAngelo's.
Ooh, and I had seen DeAngelo was a big fan of incorporating Mexican culture into his work, and we already see that here, which I really, really like.
Yeah, La Llorona, which is awesome. In modern times, she's become a patron of power that scorn will flock to. So that's kind of a fun little subversion of like monsters don't always have to be the bad guy in this world. They just are, because you can be part of them too, which is cool. All right.
This is my favorite ghost story, so I'm happy to see it.
All right, and let's hop right over to Steffie's and see what she is doing.
Oh yay, changelings!
I see changelings.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Yeah, Brooke, you're so right. How on all three of these, like they opened up with almost like an intro to what we're about to expect, and that's really cool to see.
I like in Steffie's how she's already got 3 different ways for you to get the characters involved, because that's one of the challenges with running a sandbox game like World of Darkness. It's why do I care? Because I spent 3 hours writing it.
And she set it up so that there is the past, like 3 acts, past, present, and future, which is very cool. I can't wait to see where that leads. Yes, well, that is our sneak peek on what the designers are up to, and I'm so excited to see the final product. Speaking of designers, Rachel, how did you become a freelancer for Onyx Path Publishing? How did you get started working on these World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness books?
Oh, I have been a fan of World of Darkness ever since Revised. I have memories of, I'm probably dating myself here, high school, hanging out with friends and just making characters for campaigns that we wanted to run but never got a chance to. And so, some number of years ago, Onyx Path just put out an open call for freelancers. And it was like, yeah, write us 500 words of narrative and 500 words of mechanics. So I did that, turned it in, and then a couple months later, I got an email saying, "Hey, would you like to be part of Dark Ages Companion?"
That is
Yes,
so
yes, I would.
cool. Yeah, of course. That is really cool. Of all of the storyteller products that you've worked on, what would you say has been your favorite and why?
So I've got 2 favorites. One that I did with my co-writers, Playing the Black Hand. It is a player's guide to playing Sabbat in 5th edition, V5, which the Sabbat guide itself presents them as antagonists. So there are no rules for playing PCs. And it was a lot of fun to think about, all right, we've got these old mechanics that are integral to the Sabbat, like the Vault-worthy or being on a path. What's the best way to pull that into the V5 system? I think we did a pretty good job. And then another one that I had a lot of fun writing, it is called A Canaanite's Guide to Travel. It's 100% fluff, and it was made for the Year of the Road design prompt. And it's about how do you travel as a vampire? And it's written in character by a cranky Ventrue elder.
I love that. Danny, have you ever written or designed anything horror related?
Yeah, I love short fiction, and I do write some short fiction horror related, but never anything tabletop RPG, which is weird because I do love horror movies. I love reading horror, but I've never dived into the horror side of tabletop RPGs.
So, Rachel, what drew you to the World of Darkness system?
I was always interested in role-playing games, and you hear a lot about how White Wolf back in the day in the mid to late 90s made a concerted effort to make women and girls feel welcome in their community because at the time, late 90s, early aughts, it was, at least where I was, girls didn't play D&D. If you did, you were someone's girlfriend. But the way that World of Darkness presented itself, it referred to the storyteller a lot of the times as she, her. And there were a lot of things that I personally found interesting. And you didn't have to be as mechanically savvy to play. And that's what I really liked. And I also really like the spooky stuff because I've always been a little gothy.
And are you currently working on any TTRPG projects at the moment?
Yes. So I name checked the Sabbat guide before. Me and my writing partners, we are going to be working on another guide for the camaraderie. That'll be about essentially how you can run or join a chronicle and updating a little bit the lore and all the parts that we like as longtime players of the game that haven't quite yet made it into.
Keep an eye out for that if you are a fan of the World of Darkness. Yay! And Danny, how are we looking on time right now?
We're in the 10-second countdown. It is almost time. So let's go ahead and check on our designers. There's the timer. The timer is ended. All right.
Welcome back, everyone. How was it? Everyone feeling good?
It was really good. Yeah.
We
Yeah,
took a peek about 5 minutes in, and we were like, ooh, can't wait to see what this turns out. All right, then we will have each of you go through what you've written. Feel free to embellish it a bit, or if you didn't get to something, feel free to close it out. And is there anyone who would like to go first?
Nose goes.
Yeah. I'm happy to go first. I'll go first. I'm happy to
Perfect.
do that. Okay, so taking the chronological cryptids prompt, right? I was like, okay, let me focus on something that's happened throughout history. I started in colonial American history, particularly in the coastal Connecticut region. I'm from New England, and most of my books talk about New England in one form or another. So I was like, let me lean on that. And settlers in this story had started hearing the strange howl, right, through the woods. And they were like, is that a wolf? Is it a coyote? And any information they were getting from native folks we're not going to talk about it. So no information from them, but then it stopped for hundreds of years until 1922. In 1922, those howls started again, got so persistent that they were in newspapers pretty much every week, different sightings of them, and even hitting the Boston Herald, the major newspaper of the region. But then went away in 1928 for some unknown reason, but came back 3 months ago. 3 months ago, hunters, vampires, and local werewolves have all heard these sounds, and they're trying to figure out what they are. These howls are coming from a creature called Dark Howls. They are the spirit of a werewolf that was attempted to be embraced as a vampire, but was not successfully embraced. And instead of dying and going through the spirit cycle, stayed in the spirit world as this dark, shadowy howl being. And their howl is powerful enough to cause vampires to go into torpor, to cause werewolves to drop into their breed form, and to kill humans immediately. So the only way to defeat them is by getting vampires and werewolves to work together and have a willing human sacrifice who is able to give themselves to the creature. So brings your hunters, your vampires, and your werewolves all together in a single little story.
I love that.
That was
Alright,
super
That
cool.
is so cool. Yeah.
I like how you filled in a gap that has never really been touched on in lore. So what happens if a vampire tries to embrace a werewolf? Well, if it works, you get an abomination, but it usually doesn't. So then what happens? I like that this is the answer to that.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was
and what
like,
are these?
little space. Mhm.
What are the pools at the bottom?
So I was just trying to map out a few basic rules for someone wanting to use these. So I created a high dice pool, a middle dice pool, and a lower dice pool, which is a thing I stole from the StoryPath system of games, which is a basic set of like, if it's a good roll, this is what it's going to be. If it's a roll you're not as good at, it's going to be this. And then I created a couple of mechanics for the damage that it will do, the health levels of the creature, and their willpower, just as some basic elements for someone that was like, if I want to use this, these are all the things I have to be able to use it in my game.
Yeah, I love how it's written almost like a narrative, in the late 1600s, and it's so vivid. I could just imagine hearing this howl in the night. That's super cool and very impressive that you wrote all of this in just 15 minutes. Great job. Great job.
I think the favorite part of my encounter is just being in Connecticut. I'm not a New Englander, and so like having an opportunity to be in Connecticut just really sat well with me. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna go with. That was the favorite part.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing. Josh, you are the COO of High Level Games, which is a company dedicated to helping games grow and develop. So I want to know, how do you support creators, and what do you feel like established veterans in the industry can do to better help and support newcomers?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things we do as an organization, but one of the things is give people support while they're trying to create their first product, right? So I'll have people come to me and say, I have this cool idea for a supplement, and I go through and I give them a little bit of coaching, walk through how to create the supplement, how to support them with editing. If I can't do editing for them, I get them connected to an editor who can make their product the best that it can be. We are actually helping a creator called Neil Litherland, who's another Vault creator right now. He wanted to produce his own game called Army Men. And as an organization, we helped him get that from, hey, I've got all this word. And we took all those words and made an actual book out of it. So that PDF is going to release here probably in a week or so. And we've helped a lot of different folks do that. But I also try to work with different groups to do fellowship programs and different things like that to support upcoming creators.
If someone is interested, do they just go to your website? Is there a specific process they need to go through to get in contact?
Yeah, highlevelgames.ca, we're Canadian, I'm sorry, is the best place for you to go to. There's a contact us form, and my business partner will get those emails, and then he usually shoots them over to me, and I reach out to the person.
Fantastic. Thank you, Josh, for sharing your amazing encounter. And so we will move along between DeAngelo and Steffie. Is there anyone who would like to go next?
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't finish writing, but I do know how it ends. So I'm just going to fill in the blanks at the end. I went with changing the dreaming because it's one of my favorite settings, and I thought it went well with this. So the idea is within dreaming, there's always been this legend that eventually the silver roads leading to Arcadia with the ancestral home of the Fae, it's a bit like that, and it will open, and then they can finally go home. But because all the Fae and changelings in this world are basically exiles or refugees or people that got left behind during the first refugee wave, and they kind of want to go home. So the idea is that the gates finally open, but instead of dreams, they have nightmares coming out, because while the changelings on this world have been doing their own clusterclucks, the dreams and nightmares back in Arcadia have been doing the same, and it's been overrun by nightmares. So the gates open and nightmares come out. The idea is that this is the intro to a larger campaign, which should end with them figuring out that the problem is in Arcadia. And then, so it's like a Kickstarter adventure. I have a bit about getting the characters involved. I always do that when I design an adventure, which basically has one of their changeling friends kidnapped, or one of their mortal friends sucked into a nightmare, or if one of them is a soothsayer, they get sucked into a nightmare. And then you open with an attack on the local freehold. So this is our hectic adventure opening. We're going straight into the problem. The characters can sneak and hide and do whatever they want. They don't have to resolve this by fighting, but it is immediately there's an attack. That's how we open. I want the creature to be resident to the location. So if you're playing in Europe, it should be like a gorgon or a chimera. And if you're playing in Latin America, it should be a chupacabra. That makes it a little difficult to design, but I guess what I would be doing for a finished product is giving them a list of like 5 powers to choose from, and going like, picture a monster in your mind, picture one that you want to use, and pick whatever powers you think they would have. And then you need to tie that attack back to getting the characters involved, so they find some sort of clue that this is the same creature that took their friend or attacked them in their dreams, whatever. Then Act 2 is our investigation. They can soothsay something the creature leaves behind. They can go to a local unseelie who should be connected to them somehow, who knows everything about nightmares. Or usually what happens is that the players come up with some ridiculous plan, and then you just go with that. So these clues eventually lead them back to where the monster is, and then it should be obvious that I wrote it down as guarded, but that's a bad idea, because it should be an alliance between nightmares that have come forward because they want to eat all the dreams and hopes of mankind, and a good way to start is by eating all of the changelings. And then to move to the present, because I change my monster throughout the acts. So this one should be from pop culture, so like Slenderman, or a demon nun, or a murder clown, some sort of archetype. But if I say it like demon nun, you immediately go, oh yeah, that's the one. But for IP purposes, it is a generic demon nun. It's something from pop culture. And if I say murder clown, yes, that's the one I mean. So this creature, because we've just had an attack and I want to do something else. So this is more of a social encounter, because this creature is homicidal, but not unreasonable. He's like, what if you just swear allegiance to the Nightmare Court, and then I can release your friend, and when we destroy the world, we will eat you last. It'll be fine. Or possibly the creature, the changelings can go against their dreaming nature and really become nightmares themselves. The question is, what do you do as storyteller if your characters then go, yes, great idea? That needs to be sidebarred. This will be, what the hell do we do next? I haven't written it yet. I'm sure we come up with something fun. And then the third act, which I did not get into writing, is the resolution, because eventually I want to lead them back. I want it to end at the gates of Arcadia. So they've dealt with Slenderman, and now they hopefully say no to its ridiculous offer, or they say yes, but they're lying. And then I want them to end up at the gates of Arcadia, where they find the same monster from Act 1 again, but now as it will be like 100 years from now, when it has consumed the earth and there are no more dreams of humanity left. So it will be a Gorgon, but also it's a crypto bro NFT, crypto bro billionaire, and it's guarding the gates to Arcadia. And during this showdown, I wanted to end with the gates cleared, because that will be the kickoff for your campaign. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go into Arcadia and try to fix things? Do you want to close the gates? So they somehow need to get past Crypto Bro Gorgon. But I wanted to bring back the past monster and then make it the future monster that we would all hate. Something universal that makes us all go, oh yeah, that's bad.
We love to hate Crypto Bro Gorgon. That is so cool. I love how it ties into the beginning and brings back that first monster scene in Act 1, but twists it in an interesting way. This is great. Do you have anything to add, Rachel or Danny, about this one?
Oh, I loved just the first line where it's Changeling the Dreaming, the gates to Arcadia are open. Oh no.
Yeah. And usually that's the end of every campaign, but here we're going to start with it. I really like the middle encounter where you can potentially become a nightmare instead of a dream. And I don't mean unseelie, because people always think that the unseelie are evil. Like, they're not. They're just a different side of dreams. But then you've got nightmares, and I love that you have the opportunity to become one. And I secretly also love that we're opening the gates of Arcadia, because we've been doing that since the first edition, like forever. And sometimes they briefly open, and then the only thing that happens is that more she houses come out. So I'm done with the bait and switch and the teasers. We're going to open those gates, and we're going to find what lies beyond.
Yeah, so cool. And so, Steffi, you are an incredibly prolific designer and writer. What skills do you feel have best served you in your career in tabletop role-playing games for anyone who may be an aspiring designer out there watching?
You have to be able to keep your deadlines, read your outline and know what they mean, but also you need to be mechanically savvy, because there are so many good people who deliver good flavor content, but it's much harder to find a good writer who delivers a good mechanics. So being able to look at a quick start, because nobody gets paid enough to read a 300-page book, but you want to be able to look at a quick start manual and go, yeah, I get how this system works. Maybe not all the intricacies, but I can write an adventure for this, or I can write a monster for that. That is a skill that you get if you work in different systems. You will get that. You can pick up Cthulhu, you can pick up World of Darkness, you can become Powered by the Apocalypse, although that one is very, very tricky. But you can pick up D20, it's universal. Yeah, so being able to pick up systems quickly and being adapt to write for them helps a lot. And it will
That's not
set you
something I
apart from your
feel.
peers.
Yeah, that's not something I feel like is commonly given advice. So that is super helpful. Thank you, Steffi, for sharing your incredible encounter. Thank you. Yes, and last but not least, we will move on to DeAngelo, and you can tell us what you have written for us.
Yeah, I'm super nervous. Those are like such great ideas. Oh my god. Mine is mainly focused on La Llorona, which is a Mexican vengeful ghost. The original story is that her husband cheated on her, so out of this hysteria, she ended up drowning her children and became this terrifying ghost that haunts everyone. And throughout the generations, everyone's like, you better be good, because La Llorona is going to come to get you and all that kind of stuff. And PTSD trauma in every Mexican child and all that kind of stuff. But what I like about modern days is that a lot of people are starting to turn her into a feminine icon, much like people have done with Medusa, where Medusa used to be this Gorgon monster, and now she's someone who's scorned by the gods, and that's what they're doing with La Llorona now. So in my adventure, I always do everything in Phoenix, Arizona, because I love my home city, and it has a lot of culture, so I have it set in a very low to ground Hunt of the Reckoning situation where across different campuses, whether it be college or high school, there are these organic sort of heartbreak that happens of people being cheated on or just relationships don't work out or whatever the case might be. and they are turned to witchcraft as comfort and ways to get through things. However, suddenly real power starts getting into the hands of these different individuals, and through moments of passion where they're like, I want to scorn him for everything he did, or my partner did, I just want to do this spell, and someone's like, I can help teach you that. And then sure enough, it begins to spiral into true injury, true power, true illness, and they quickly realize that they cannot escape La Llorona once they have a contract with her. It's like a patron spirit, and it quickly becomes a situation where they can't talk about it, they can't do anything other than help to perform her acts and rituals. I didn't get to write this part in the actual thing, but I wanted to have it where it's not like The Ring, where the only way to get rid of her is to bring someone else into the fold, to be able to transfer that sort of thing. However, not everyone wants to leave. Some of them want to embrace this power and see how far they can go with these abilities and with these spellcrafts and everything. And sure enough, as Hunter the Reckoning, whether they be veteran hunters or just a group of concerned citizens whose family member or touchstone or whoever ended up getting wrapped into this or affected by it, they start to investigate this weirdness of this cults or this coven of these brujas who are casting actual brujeria and everything. And as they go through this, they start to realize there's true power and they need to do something to stop it. Unfortunately for La Llorona, she is undying, where even if you destroy her, quote unquote, she will come back eventually and all that. But through the adventure and investigation and looking at tomes and old sort of like stuff, they find that in order to even summon her, the head witch in charge has to have a locket or something that has very intimate personal items that are surrounded around her relationship or her vengefulness. And then if they destroy that, that's like the fetter for or the object of power that keeps the spirit here on the material plane, and that keeps her away unless there's another person who worships her and does the whole process again. So it's kind of a low to ground situation where even new hunters can go and figure it out and then investigate this and try to save anyone who's walked down this path and didn't actually mean to get this real true raw power. And yeah,
it's cool because I feel like you can ramp it up. It can be as easy or hard as you want it to be, depending on the power level of the group playing. So it makes it very flexible. Can you take us through the stat blocks you have at the bottom? I want to know what special powers they may have.
Yeah, for sure. So I was writing the story and I was like, oh crap, I need to probably actually design things or whatever. So La Llorona herself, if there's a really truly powerful bruja that's like, have summoned her, then she will appear to help out her coven and strongest followers. And it copies a lot of stuff from, I didn't even write this in here because it just directly kept it from the Spectre sort of situation where she can go into her physical form or her ethereal form, and you have to mess around with that. But if she does start to attack you, she does normal physical harm, but then the most terrifying thing is that she can try to dominate the mind of, it doesn't matter if it's vampire, werewolf, or whatever. If there's fortified mind, then that also comes into play and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, it's supposed to be a scary encounter because she can turn allies into enemies, and the only way to stop your ally is by physically harming them or what have you, and that causes everyone's health pool to go down. And all the while, there are witches that are actually there from the actual coven that are casting these hexes and spells. One of weakness that I have here, and it could be any attribute really, where it doesn't cause any physical harm, but the amount of successes they get above their enemies' successes, that many dots gets reduced from their dice pool for a turn or so, just to be able to hinder some stat blocks for hunters or vampires or what have you, turning a gangrel kindred into this weak and frail thing at the hands of this mortal witch. And then the other one is a hex of decay, which is a physically rapidly aging or decaying or eating away at the victim, causing damage. And if they want to boost up their stats or enhance themselves, they can do a blood sacrifice where they reduce their health pool, but they do increase it to like aggravated damage to really cause harm. So that way, if you are playing Vampire the Masquerade or Werewolf the Apocalypse, then they can do that. And I really should add something for rage to like stop like Chronos form or something, but like still, yeah. So that's what I created. Yeah.
I think you were the first person to like make a full stat block for Design Dash, so kudos to you because I've never seen.
I forgot willpower when Josh said that. I was like, oh dang it! I was like, I should have done that. Yeah.
The fact that you both brought in like monster mechanics, I'm like, nice, very very cool. Rachel, do you have any thoughts about this encounter?
I really like the choices that this already is asking you to make. And I like that with Steffie's as well. My design philosophy for encounters is you should always be asking the players to make a choice and something that's not just tactical. So I really like that you have the option of, well, we could very easily solve this problem by making it someone else's problem. That's a fun choice, and all the other different options you have presented to resolve her as best you can.
But she never quite goes away, which always keeps you coming back.
I have two answers for this. Number one is that I actually wrote that without like staring off into the void, questioning whether I am good enough as a writer or not, which is normally my writing process. But the second thing that I really enjoy about my encounter is the fact that I got to bring my culture into it. You know, when it comes to horror, when it comes to the world of darkness, you don't get too much of, at least in modern times. I know that Sabat was actually a lot of Mexico stuff, but I didn't know the previous editions before 5e. So every time I write the World of Darkness stuff, I always try to bring my culture into it. And that's what I really love about it. And even though I wrote it in a way that's like ghost bad, vengeance bad sort of thing, I also wanted to make things where it's like there are good sides to La Llorona in different ways and all that kind of stuff. So to make it very open-ended. And if you want to date the monster and date the ghost woman, you can do that too. So it'll be great.
And DeAngelo, so you started a business to highlight diverse and local creatives, which is amazing. Do you have any advice for creatives who want to get started but maybe feel intimidated or unwelcome because they don't see themselves represented well in the industry yet?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is just to go ahead and start, you know, to don't even think about it. Just set up your social media account with your business name, write whatever you want to do, but don't say like, you know, I'm trying to do this, or like, teehee, I'm doing my best, you know, just say, I am a writer, I am an artist, you know, I am, you know, because you are worthy, you are valid. And yeah, you need to like have that oomph and the bravado when you do everything. Because if you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect other people to believe in you? So very big. Yeah.
That's great advice. It's so easy to make yourself smaller. My ideas aren't that great. Maybe no one else will want to read this. And part of why we love Design Dash is to encourage people. You can start off with a 15-minute word vomit brain dump, and it can turn into something really, really cool and amazing. Thank you so much, DeAngelo, for sharing. Fantastic job. Well, that is our Design Dash this time, everyone. It was so exciting, so cool to see what you all created. We will do outros, and you can tell us where we can find you and follow you online and any exciting upcoming projects that you all are working on. And we will start off with Rachel, our fabulous guest host today.
Hello, yes, right now I run a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/stolenfires. We do a lot of tabletop RPGs, not the big three. Right now I am wrapping up a Dragon Age campaign and a Blade Runner campaign, and we're going to start Dune in November. That'll be a continuation of a story we've already started, so I'm really looking forward to all of that. I already mentioned the Guide to the Camarilla. We don't really have a firm release date for that, but I'm guessing probably in the spring 2024. Should be a lot of fun. Other than that, you can find me Stolen Fires on Blue Sky, on co-host, on the Burning Bird app, if that's even still around for the time this airs. I really liked reading everything, and I think that they all three of them demonstrated just the incredible breadth available to anyone who wants to create for Storytellers Vault, because you've got all these great things to choose from, all these great settings. I loved all of them. I loved that they each had this unique take, and that they were, no one picked the same game. That was also very cool.
Thank you, Rachel. And Steffi, tell us where we can find you and anything you might be working on.
I'm Steffie on most socials. I'm on the Bird app as 100 Things I Love. That's 100 the number, and then Things I Love. And then I'm on the Blue app with just my regular name, Steffie Levan. But I'm very boring. I don't use aliases. So if you look for Steffie, you usually find me. I'm working on a ton of things, but freelance life means that you can't talk about half of them, and with the other half, you have no idea where they're at in production. Like, are they going to come out tomorrow? Are they going to come out a year from now? I don't know. People don't tell me. I just find out when it's released. So what I can tell you, because one thing I've been developing with my business partner, this Chai Pradical, over at Angry Hamster Publishing, we're developing Witch 2nd edition. I already mentioned at the beginning, but it's an amazing game about making bad choices and then trying to get out of them and making more bad choices until hopefully you find the end at the light of this ordeal. It is a game of our times where you're basically stuck in a bad deal because you took out student loans. Everybody said that was a good idea. and now you're going to spend the rest of eternity trying to figure out how the hell you're going to get rid of them. So I highly recommend that people check that out. That's Switch 2nd edition, and it's going to be amazing.
The premise is so real. It's so real. Thank you, Steffi. And maybe we'll check in October and see if any of those secret projects have come out. And DeAngelo, please tell us where the people can follow you and what you're working on.
Yeah, so you can follow me on all social medias at @_DeAngelo. I am, like Steffi, doing a lot of freelance stuff, which is really cool. And then also, I recently came out with my own TTRPG called Emerald Templars, which is a dark fantasy tabletop role-playing game. It is my love letter to fantasy RPGs, but also the fact that when you walk into a TTRPG store, you don't really see yourself represented, especially if you're a person of color or marginalized. So what I did to answer that is to get a whole team together of marginalized creators and be able to pour what they love into their culture, from their culture into this book. And it's on sale on DriveThru RPG, forever on sale from it sort of stuff. So anyone who wants to access it but maybe hard on cash or anything like that can still be able to pick it up and play it. And that's what I have going on.
Just check it out if you haven't already, and it looks amazing. I remember seeing it on DriveThru and I was like, this is so cool. So fantastic work. And last but not least, Josh, can you please tell us where we can follow you and what you might be working on right now?
Yep. If folks are interested in following me, I'm on Mastodon as Josh Heath. I'm also on the Bird app as HLG_corporate. I am on the podcast platforms doing the Opcast with my co-host Scott Cuban, where we talk about the amazing games that are part of the Trinity Continuum. If folks are interested in Army Men is a game where you play plastic army men in a world of plastic beings. It is a great philosophical question of, am I made of plastic, or is plastic made out of me? But it is a 5e inspired game if people are interested in those, and I think it's great. It's still on BackerKit, so I recommend people check that out. There's all kinds of other things that I'm involved in, like Steffi, where it's like, it's somewhere out there, and eventually it will be released. So I'm sure there'll be lots of cool things. And if people are interested in using role-playing games as a transformative tool, I've just given a talk in Toronto at the Serious Play Conference. That's going to be online, and I'm going to be at Save Against Fear talking about using role-playing games as a tool for intercultural dialogue. So if any of that's an interest to you, find those things on the interwebs, where they will probably be posted on YouTube's.
Yes, and of course we will include all of your links down below in the description and in commands for our stream. Danny, do you have any closing words for us?
Yeah, I'm just flabbergasted about all the cool talent that we get to be around and all the passionate, and it is clear that y'all are good at what you do, but you also have your whole heart and soul in this. And I hope anybody watching that hasn't known about the Story Vault or World of Darkness in general, check it out, because I'm stoked about it, either as a player or as a writer. So thank you all so much for spending time in those 15 minutes that they designed. We had changelings, werewolves, vampires, ghosts. Like it's amazing. So thank you all again so much for your time. And I encourage anybody out there to start writing, designing, or playing in general. So
yes, and don't forget, if you are watching this, you can vote for your favorite encounter after the stream, and we will be announcing the winner of Design Dash, although everyone is a winner because we got to hear all of these amazing ideas. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for hanging out, and we will see you in our next episode. Goodbye.
I mean, obviously you were both cheating. I mean, who writes full stat plots and mechanics in that short time? That is just unreasonably good.
I was gonna say the same thing, because like, especially for Steffie's, it has like multiple acts and all that kind of stuff, and I was like, that would have been so good. Like, oh my gosh. The same with Joshua's willpower and everything, thinking about all those like intricate details. I'm like, dang, they are veterans of their craft. Like, it's so good. Oh my gosh.
Yes, let's be collaborators on a thing. We've all got great ideas and the capacity to put a thing together really quickly. So let's build a thing together. I would love to do that.
Aww.